that.
Warplanes from the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have struck again in Syria, this time hitting a dozen ISIS-controlled oil facilities. The mobile refineries generate $2 million a day for the Islamic militants.
The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force.
At the UN, the president vowed to use a broad coalition to take down ISIS, hoping that Britain will soon join the airstrikes. He also emphasized that the U.S. will not send in troops, hoping instead to support Syrians and Iraqis fighting to take back their communities.
We will use our military might in a campaign of airstrikes to roll back ISIL. We will train and equip forces fighting against these terrorists on the ground. We will work to cut off their financing and to stop the flow of fighters into and out of the region.
The president presided over a UN Security Council session on Wednesday where world leaders moved quickly against ISIS.
The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously.
A new resolution requires nations to track suspected terrorist fighters, prosecute those who travel for training, and share airline passenger information. U.S. leaders are highlighting an earlier airstrike that they say disrupted an imminent plot to blow up American passenger jets by the al-Qaeda-linked Khorasan terror group.
We had good information, specific information, that they were nearing the end of planning and preparations for an attack on Western targets, either in Europe or the U.S. homeland. That wasn't necessarily all clear, but we knew that they were getting very, very close.
Officials say the group was developing explosives that could not be detected by airport screening machines.
They had a plan in place, people to do it, and explosives to execute it.
Meanwhile, another videotaped beheading by extremists supporting ISIS. The French government has confirmed the death of a French mountaineering guide. The radicals released a video of his death, denouncing France for refusing to stop airstrikes in Iraq. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Well, we've waited too long for this, but we're finally doing it, and for that I'm grateful. And I think that bunch of thugs running around in their pickup trucks and with their machine guns will find that when they're dealing with the combined air power of a number of nations, they're going to know that the game has changed dramatically. Well, joining us now with more on the growing threat in Iraq and Syria is CBN News terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck. Eric, what do we know about this Khorasan group of terrorists? We haven't heard too much about them. Suddenly they're a big threat. Who are they?
And Pat, very shadowy group. Now, they've been around for a while. Look, intel reports about this Khorasan group probably crossed President Obama's desk a year, even 2 years ago. Now, apparently, Ayman al-Zawahiri, he's al-Qaeda's top overall leader. He's based in the tribal regions of Pakistan. Apparently, he dispatched this group. Pat, it's made up of battle-hardened veteran al-Qaeda fighters, and Zawahiri dispatched them to Syria, in specific, to recruit young Westerners who are flocking to Syria to join the jihad, recruit young Westerners to attack the West. Now, what this Khorasan group is doing, Pat, and why they are so dangerous is, number one, as I said, battle-hardened al-Qaeda guys, veterans, but number two, they're working closely with al-Qaeda's Yemen branch to come up with ingenious new bombs that can slip through American airline security and European airline security. These guys are obsessed, Pat, with hijacking or blowing up airliners. It doesn't matter how much we harden our airline security, they're not going to stop trying to penetrate. They want airplanes because of the physical damage it can cause, the psychological terror, obviously, and the economic terror. You can really hurt the airline industry if you have another successful hijacking and attack, God forbid, like we had on 9/11. They saw the results of 9/11, and they are obsessed with topping that.
Well, now, Eric, it's been reported, okay, we did airstrikes, and that frustrated their plans. What do you know about the success of these airstrikes in Syria?
Pretty successful, Pat, so far. Apparently, some of these Khorasan group leaders have been killed. We have not confirmed that yet, but some of them were targeted. And according to U.S. officials, look, we've pushed back. Apparently, an attack was imminent, according to U.S. officials. Now, we've, in the very least, pushed back their planning and hit a few of their main targets there in Syria. That's a good thing. We also hit ISIS targets in Syria, which, look, in terms of planning against the West, Pat, over the weekend, an ISIS leader released an audio tape threatening attacks against America, Europe, Australia, and Canada. In specific, he called for lone wolf attacks for young Western Muslims here in America to rise up and attack American targets. That is a big concern, especially with the airstrikes now against ISIS targets, Pat. I'm concerned that we could see some lone wolf ISIS sympathizer types attack targets here in America. Look, remember Fort Hood. Remember the Boston bombers. Just a few committed Islamic jihadists can cause a lot of damage.
Well, Eric, I just can't conceive of the terror that would come about if an airplane blows up over the Atlantic or even over the continental United States, and it's known as a terrorist thing. I mean, this would freeze air travel. People wouldn't want to get near an airplane, and that would be a devastating blow to the United States economy.
It would, Pat. Look, and that is the goal of the jihadists. They want to top 9/11. That's Khorasan. That's al-Qaeda. But ISIS, when we talk about ISIS, Pat, and their targets against the homeland, it's these smaller scale attacks, these lone wolf style attacks, which can also cause a lot of terror. I'll give you an example. In Australia last week, a plot was broken up by a group of ISIS sympathizers. What they wanted to do was kidnap random Australians on the street, just women, children, random Australian citizens, Pat, kidnap them and behead them. Talk about causing terror. Imagine walking down the street to catch the bus to go to work in the morning, and a group of terrorists grabs you, takes you in a car, you end up in a basement somewhere with a video camera on you getting beheaded. That is a major threat. This kind of self-starter attack, which would cause major terror, which would grab world headlines. That's what ISIS is looking to do. Al-Qaeda still going for the big one, but ISIS, these lone wolves, these ISIS sympathizers across the West, smaller scale but still deadly attacks, and the psychological terror, the terror of beheadings, of killing women and children, of, God forbid, seizing an elementary school. That's big-time terror, and that's what they're looking to do.
Eric, thank you so much for these incisive reports. We'll look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you so much. Eric Stakelbeck, ladies and gentlemen. He's the terrorism expert here at CBN.